So today we're going to be reacting to the top 5 title fight performances in UFC history. Starting off this list in at number 5 is Sean Strickland. I haven't seen this list. I know this is already too low. This guy went in there with arguably the greatest striker we've ever seen in UFC history in Israel Adesanya. Second greatest middleweight of all time. The Adesanya hate is getting a bit out of hand now. This guy's a great fighter. Arguably top 10 of all time. But Sean Strickland was a massive underdog going into this fight, and he beat up Israel Adesanya for all 5 rounds, even dropping him in the first. That was such a clean right hand he landed. And no one predicted Sean Strickland to win. See people now talking about it. No one predicted Sean Strickland to win that fight, let's be honest. Great performance. 5's too low for this. This should arguably be 1 or 2, in my opinion. Next up, we've got Volkanovski. Volkanovski, Korean Zombie. Yeah, Volkanovski did light him up, but it was expected. It shouldn't be above Sean Strickland. His performance over Israel Adesanya. No way. What? Because he finished the Korean Zombie? Again, expected. I wouldn't have that there. Sean Strickland should be above him. Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson. This right here is a massive deal. Massive fight. This was Tony Ferguson was meant to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov. Again, didn't happen because the world shut down because of the common cold. But I remember this whole card. I can't remember what it was. Was it UFC 260 something? But it had the Ngannou, KO, and Jairzinho Rosenstrike on it. You had Henry Cejudo beating Dominic Cruz, then retiring. You obviously had this fight right here. That was a great card. Shame there was no audience for it. But yeah, Justin Gaethje again was the underdog going into this fight, and he absolutely beat the shit out of Tony Ferguson. I went back and watched this fight recently. I watched it on the flight on my way home from America. The shots that Justin Gaethje was landing on Tony Ferguson, how Tony stayed on his feet throughout this fight was just insane, in my opinion. And if you look at Tony Ferguson now, the amount of damage he took in this fight, the way Tony moved in this fight, he does not do that at all. He didn't do it after this fight either. The movement from Tony Ferguson Justin Gaethje beat the shit out of this guy, beat everything out of him. Tony Ferguson hasn't looked the same since. This was the start of Tony Ferguson's downward spiral, his decline. I personally think Tony Ferguson is one of the most overrated fighters of all time. That's just my opinion. The fact that people also thought he beat Khabib Nurmagomedov, again, just blows my mind. This right here, great title performance. But again, Sean Strickland should be above him, because Sean Strickland took 0 damage against Adesanya in there. Yes, Justin Gaethje beat the shit out of him, but he was dropped with an uppercut in there. So again, Strickland should be higher. Great fight though. If you haven't seen this, which I'm sure everybody probably has, go back and watch it. Justin Gaethje just landing bombs on Tony Ferguson all night. Right, in at number 2, this is something we can agree on. Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez. This right here, I think this is number 1, in my opinion. Conor McGregor looked flawless in there against Eddie Alvarez. He completely just dismantled him, picked him apart. Yeah, like I don't know what's gonna be number 1 here. I have a feeling they're gonna put Cody Garbrandt, Dominic Cruz. If that is the case, never make a list again. That Cody Garbrandt performance, if it is that one, is great, but should not be above McGregor. The Conor McGregor Eddie Alvarez fight, like the way Conor McGregor would just set up traps and Eddie Alvarez would just walk into them blindly. I mean, this was prime McGregor in my opinion. Shame that we didn't get to see him continue his run in the UFC, because after this he went and boxed Floyd Mayweather, which in my opinion ruined Conor McGregor's MMA career. But again, guy got to fight Floyd Mayweather for 100 million, so do you blame him? No, you can't blame him. McGregor in at number 2. Let's see what number 1 is. Yeah, Eddie Alvarez was just done. Clinical performance from McGregor. Clinical. Yeah, this just isn't number 1. I get why people are so highly rated on it because of the showboating of Cody Garbrandt and the way he beat up Dominic Cruz, which he did. He did beat up Dominic Cruz. But this fight was more competitive than what people let on, in my opinion. Let's just watch it anyway. You can see Dominic Cruz's movement is so weird. Like, so weird. But Garbrandt's boxing and timing in this fight was just on point. And the power in there as well that was on display from Cody Garbrandt. Great performance. Shame what's happened to Garbrandt since. Had the biggest fall off probably in UFC history between him and Tony Ferguson, definitely. But that one isn't number one. So this is my rankings in terms of the fights that we've got here. In a number 5 is Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie. That there, Volkanovski was always going to win that fight. I don't get why that's above Strickland. Right, that's number 5. And a number 4 for me would be Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson. Yes, he did beat the shit out of Tony Ferguson. I don't know how many times I've had to say that now. He did, but he got dropped and stuff in that fight, so that's why I have him in a number 4. And a number 3 is Cody Garbrandt's performance over Dominic Cruz. Like I said, he looked great in there. It was a great win for him, but it was a lot more competitive in points than what people let on. And a number 2 is definitely Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya. This right here is arguably the greatest upset in UFC history. What Sean Strickland was able to do on short notice as well, fly halfway across the world to get in there and fight the greatest striker arguably we've ever seen in the UFC, piece him up for 5 rounds, hurt him in the first round. Definitely number 2. And Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez is number 1. That's just a perfect clinical performance. The fact that he just dominated from start to finish, had no threat whatsoever in there, and he got the finish. That is the correct listing right there. Let me know your opinions in the comments below, and as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I'll see you again in the next one.